This is Freedom Investor Radio, and I'm John Pearl. It hit me like a freight train when I realized there was a better way. When I discovered that I could take my future into my own hands. When I realized I could invest my way to freedom. This is what I'm working towards. In each episode of Freedom Investor Radio, we will explore the tactics and strategies used by the top real estate investors and entrepreneurs in the nation. We will learn how you can start investing your way to freedom and take control of your life. Thanks so much for tuning in. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Investor Radio. I'm your host, John Pearl, and this morning I am joined by Maurice Philogene. Maurice, how you doing?
I am doing great, John. Happy to be here with you, my man.
Absolutely. I'm happy as well. So I discovered, Maurice popped onto my feed in LinkedIn, and then I just started following him a little more closely, and I just love what he's doing. He's all about lifestyle by design, using real estate to create the life of your dreams. So Maurice, I'm just going to pass it on over to you. Why don't you tell us kind of a little bit about yourself, take as much time as you need, your early life, how it evolved into what you're doing now.
Yeah, brother. Thank you for having me, my man. I will, I like to start with where I am. That way it's, we don't have to go back to the full origin and people don't know where you're going. So I'm 46 years old. I'm based in DC. I split my time between here and the Mediterranean. We'll talk about that a little bit. I am now retired from what is the traditional W-2. I retired from my last W-2 career, October 31st of 2021. Real estate and other investments were obviously the catalyst for that, but also because I wanted to live life extremely well, and we have a finite amount of time on this planet. I call myself a freedom fighter, and that's because I live by principles, what I call freedom principles: financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom, freedom to execute your purpose, and freedom to build meaningful relationships, because we need them to grow as people. So I have an interesting journey. I'll give the short version, which is I ended up down at University of Virginia, mechanical engineering degree, playing varsity football, had an ROTC scholarship. When I graduated, I got hired by a consulting firm called Accenture. I stayed with them for 25 years. They were Anderson Consulting back in the day, but now they're called Accenture. I was always in the military, obviously, because I had an ROTC scholarship. So federal agent and lieutenant colonel when I retired after 22 years. I became a street cop in 2008. At the same time I was doing everything else. I just never told anybody. So I was doing full-time executive work during the day for the consulting firm, and then being a full-time midnight police officer in the DC area. My family obviously helped me with that, because there's no way you can get that done without support. And then amongst all that, I have traveled to almost 100 countries, 300 times. I speak 4 languages. I have 2 boys that I love immensely. My entire life has been, as you said, although I didn't realize I was doing it in a formal way at the time, my life has been designed, if you will, to have experiences, to have passive income, such that you can divorce your need to physically be somewhere from creating revenue. That is kind of what has sparked this entire thing, and what you see me doing on LinkedIn, trying to give people some education or motivate them to self-educate on why passive income is so important, because it gave me all the tools that I need to be living my best life now, and that's what I'm doing. I punch from the typical world, and I control my time and my space, and only say yes or no to the Lord above and my family. So that's kind of how it all came together.
That's great. So I didn't know you. I didn't know you were in the military and did ROTC. Yeah. So I also did ROTC in college, and was in the National Guard for 10 years. Just got out, and
right on.
For me, that process kind of completely changed who I was as a person. What was who were you before you joined the military? Did it have any major impacts on you and how your outlook on how you operate, your mindset, who you are as a person?
it gave me so much, man. It really did. And if you were guard, I went Air National Guard for the first 4 years. Which service were you in?
Army.
Army. Okay, so I was an MP commander, military police commander, or Air Force called Security Forces. I was Security Forces commander for 4 years, and then I got recruited by your CID. So I was an OSI special agent. And for the listeners, that's like NCIS on TV or the FBI in the Air Force. But man, I ran as an officer. You have all this responsibility. I sought out international opportunities because I told you about all the countries I've been to. I have always been interested in immersing in culture and being part of diplomatic affairs and stuff like that. I ran federal law enforcement field offices in Turkey, Western Africa, in 10 of those countries, Germany, Luxembourg, DC, Vegas, and some other places. I mean, and this is as like a 24-year-old special agent in charge, briefing 4-star generals, briefing members of Congress, members of the House of Representatives, having discipline, getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I was up this morning at 4 a.m. I was at the gym by 4:30 a.m. working out, obviously, and making really funny videos because I'm always the first one there. But the military just gave me such a level of discipline, but also experiences around the world that compelled me to further understand that titles and money are nothing in the scheme of life, because what we remember is the experiences and the relationships that we make along the way. And the military gave me a ton of that. It hurt to leave a few years ago, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely resonates with me, especially the discipline piece. I had zero of it prior to joining, and I have a ton of it now. So I want to get into, so I know you built up a relatively sizable, respectable portfolio by the time you were 30 of, I think, single family residences, right? So I know you're big on self-education. I know you probably weren't learning those principles in the classroom in college. The military wasn't teaching it. Your W-2 job wasn't teaching it. They're probably teaching you to put 20% into your 401k and work till you're in your mid 60s, right? So where did that inspiration, that light bulb moment, that knowledge come from to start building your own personal wealth?
Freedom. I had the notion of freedom in my head the entire time. The idea of sitting at a desk for the rest of my life on K Street in Washington, D.C. wasn't going to cut it. It just wasn't going to cut it. But when I was in New York with my then girlfriend, and I was in a bookstore, and I picked up Personal Finance for Dummies. I don't know to this day why I picked up the book. I don't know. But I did. I read it. It took me down this financial education path. I found the term passive income in there. I understood what it meant in general. And then here's what happened. I bought a place to live. It appreciated by $30,000. This is in 2003, at the beginning of the real estate boom that was going on from 02 to 08 timeframe. I was like, what the hell is that? My father told me I made $30,000 in equity. He explained what that was to me. I went to the library, pre-Google, pre-Yahoo, sat down, read 10 books on real estate, and by the end of the year, I had bought 10 more properties. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. Made a ton of mistakes, but I am still today and have always been very good at just doing and course correcting along the way. So it got me from 02 to 2015. I got up to 34, 35 single family homes. And what I did, which was smart, very inefficient, but very smart on my part as a young kid, was take my paycheck from Accenture, take my paycheck from the military, take cash flow from property number one, pay off property one, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And this snowball effect started to happen. When I had some equity in some of the other places, I sold them. But I didn't go buy the car or do all that stupid stuff. I used the equity to pay off some of the other condos. So what I ended up with 18 paid off single family homes by 2014 or 15, which was about 160 grand of passive income.
So where were these properties located?
All DC area. So as far south as Fredericksburg, Virginia, as far north as the Maryland, Delaware border. So like 300 miles between them, north and south. I self-managed all of them for a very long time. That was terrible. I had entrepreneurial depression because I would work all week, sometimes the 2 jobs, as I told you, and then tenants, termites, and toilets on the weekends. There was no social life. There was nothing, nothing, to be honest. And then add being a father in there a little bit later. So it was definitely a challenge, my man, but I would never replace that journey ever. But it was a rough one.
Got it. So your sense of curiosity and your desire to live a better life brought you into some knowledge that led you to purchasing all these single family residences and building up a significant amount of passive income. And then eventually you scaled to up to the multifamily stuff. Am I right?
Right.
What was the mindset shift that took place that enabled you or gave you the desire to want to do that?
I hope people key into what I'm about to say because I think it's really important. When you realize you have enough money to cover your basic needs, food, gas, shelter, like I was fine, right? I was getting the 160 passive, but also still had my 150 salary, right? You start to realize that life is not about money at all. I was executing that same buy a single family, pay off a single family thing. I was like, this is not fun anymore. I was just pressing repeat. So, we say about corporate life or going to the plant or anything, man, it's 9 to 5 grind. I'm pressing repeat every day, but that can happen in investing too. So I needed the next challenge. And I just happened to run into an ad about a multifamily seminar that was coming into town. I went. Within 7 minutes, I got up, went to the back of the room, plopped down like $5,000 for the next course, took that course. It took me on this odd journey, and I had some limiting beliefs, and it was tough for me to get my first few deals done. I paid for a mentor, got the first 2 or 3 deals done, which happened to be a passive deal. And then I did a couple mobile home parks on my own. And that's just how the multifamily journey started. It wasn't because I was necessarily seeking economies of scale or more money or anything like that. It was because I was looking for a new challenge. That's all it was. And I'm certainly glad I did it now because 2 years ago, I started my own company with 4 partners. That's Quattro Capital. We've done about $100 million of real estate in the past 12 months, 21 complexes since we started together. We're about to go under contract right now on 300 units. And I get to help people find their own version of financial and time freedom, because they can put their hard-earned money to work the way that I did over my past 2 decades. So that's kind of how the multifamily started.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said a lot of good things just then. And, I hear a lot of people say similar things when they reach the level of, financial independence where they have their basic living expenses covered. They want to just do more. And by the way, Quattro Capital, I know some of your other partners, and you guys are a bunch of rock stars. You guys are doing great things. So you're imagine you're doing these through syndications, right?
Yeah, these are generally syndications, but we buy our own internally as well.
Great. Yeah. So for anyone listening that's not aware, syndication is when a group of people pool their resources together to purchase a larger asset like an apartment building, mobile home park, self-storage complex. And the great thing that Maurice is saying is, when you do syndications, you can bring other people in, maybe other people that don't have the knowledge or the wherewithal to invest in these properties, but they have money they want to invest. So you can put your capital with a guy like Maurice and his team, who's extremely knowledgeable, and still generate those same types of returns that you can get. So that's great. I love it. So Maurice, tell me about how you and Quattro got formed up. So I'm big on partnership and networking. So what were some of the key things that you were looking for when forming that partnership, and other thoughts on networking in general?
Yeah, man, I never really wanted to partner with anyone, to be honest. I was so used to doing real estate on my own, and it had worked, that I was like, why am I gonna, break something that's not broken, But this is what happened. In 2018, I was at a real estate conference in Boston, my home city. My now partner, Erin Hudson, was on stage talking about her charitable efforts in Nicaragua. She was building homes for families and stuff. She asked for a donation just out of the kindness of her heart from the audience, because there's a lot of ballers in the audience and stuff. I have my own aspirations around philanthropy, which I'd love to touch on before we get out of here. But I donated 5 grand. And what that me standing up and being the first person to stand up in the audience to do that caused an avalanche of people standing up, and she ended up raising $55,000 in 10 minutes just because I stood up. We became friends. We stayed in touch from time to time, and eventually she gave me a call about sponsoring a deal, a 36-unit, $3 million purchase in Knoxville, Tennessee. Her partners were two of my current partners, Chad and Kim. I just had the net worth, liquidity, and experience to get that deal done. And when we did the deal, you know, when you're like on a football team or on some kind of team and you just like vibe with everybody and the integrity is there and you know it. And people, yes, they want to make money, but they're not just about the money. I felt it with them. They felt it with me. We asked each other if it made sense to stay together, and I'm glad we did, because our fifth partner, Tammy, joined. Tammy is Chad's mother and Kim's sister. So there's a 3-part family there. And then there's me and Erin. We hired a business coach eventually because we realized we needed to set up systems and procedures and all that type of stuff. And man, it's been a whirlwind. You know, we have like 700 investors now, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate. Our acquisition pipeline is crazy. But in all of that, I will say the following. They are my partners, one, because they're better than me, and I know how to surround myself with people who are better than me. And two, because I express my own individual desire to not grow a brick and mortar business that would keep me trapped into another job. So Quattro Capital is very strong, and we can support a lot of investors, but it is very much a family operating as a business versus a business pretending to be a family. So I can pick up this laptop, pick up my cell phone, and go work from my other location in Cyprus or anywhere around the world. I need that flexibility. They're supporting that flexibility, and they have similar goals. So that's how it all came together. The right people, similar mindsets, similar goals, and we are one hell of a team.
That's great. And I have heard Erin tell that story before, and I thought that you might be the guy on the other end of that story, but it's nice. It's nice to hear it confirmed. That's a great story.
Yeah.
And also, you mentioned Knoxville, Tennessee. I graduated from the University of Tennessee. Go Vols!
Oh, right
Great
on.
city. Okay, so you mentioned philanthropy. So I imagine that probably has something to do with you've kind of reached your financial goals to a certain extent, and then you're wanting to do more. Talk about some of the things you're doing in philanthropy with helping others.
Yeah, I have not reached my financial goal. I have reached my ability to take care of myself and my family. I'm okay. I don't need a lot, right? Funny, I just bought my 22-year-old a new car last week. I still don't own a new car myself. I'm looking at my 2005 Infiniti out the window that just crossed 170,000 miles. I don't need it. It doesn't make sense. He needed it, so that did make sense, and I was proud of it. But here's what the thing with philanthropy. You remember I talked about the freedom principles, and one of them was freedom of purpose, to execute. I think you don't have to have financial freedom to be rich and to be wealthy. Like a friend of mine from high school, she's an immigrants' rights attorney. I tell her all the time, she's executing on what her dad executed on, their purpose of helping Mexican immigrants who are in the farming community in California, but she might be making 70 or 80 grand vice the 500 she could be making because she graduated from Yale Law School. She has freedom of purpose. I became a police officer not because I needed the money, obviously, but because I wanted to give back to my local community in a meaningful way. Freedom of purpose. Now my purpose is I want to move whole communities. I want to generate so much effing wealth that I can do what I did over Christmas, which was go to Lebanon. I'm connected with a family, and one of them is a priest in a local neighborhood. We went door to door. He knew families that were in need. And no, we didn't just give them money for food. What we did was found the people that we could move their life in one day, right? So someone needed a hip replacement surgery, couldn't get the money. I paid for the surgery in one foul swoop. He just had surgery. Someone needed to get a cancerous tumor from their pancreas removed. We paid for it, 10 grand on the spot on Christmas Day. Do you know the type of hope that will give someone that someone just randomly shows up? I want to create wealth in meaningful ways and then go distribute it and do good things around the planet. But that's my way of giving back. That doesn't mean that's what other people do. Remember, I love the international stuff and immersing in culture. So that's the way that I choose to execute on my philanthropy. but I need revenue and wealth to do it, which is what drives me to still get up at 4 in the morning and execute on something like Quattro, because it has purpose. You know what I'm saying? So purpose needs to be behind stuff for us to be motivated to keep executing it.
Yeah, that's really powerful stuff. I love to hear that. All right, so you've done a lot. You did a lot of self-educating. Were there any mentors along the way that kind of helped you along the path? What are your thoughts on mentorship when getting involved in real estate investing? Is it a requirement, or what was kind of your experience in that
It's
regard?
not a requirement, but it will accelerate things if you have the right mentor. So remember, my mentor from 02 to 2016 was the library and books, and eventually Google. That was my mentor. I'm good with that. My mentor for posting on social media is YouTube. I go find tips and hacks. But I did get a formal mentor. I paid a lot for him too. A formal mentor when I got into multifamily. He did not necessarily help me with the tactical aspects of acquiring real estate, multifamily, but he did help me with limiting beliefs, because every time I ran into a roadblock, I felt like going back to single family, right? But now the people who my partners have brought into Quattro Capital, we are mentoring them, right? Some of them had not done any multifamily real estate, but they had similar goals and values. So we decided to partner up with them, and now they've done, I think Amy, my partner, has done like 70 million worth of real estate in the last 2 years, right? She is accelerating because she is around mentors, my partners that can help her. I help people. I'm a formal coach. I coach people on lifestyle design and financial freedom based on those principles. And if I have to help them with real estate, I do that too. And that pushes them forward faster. So I do think mentors will push you forward faster, but sometimes mentors are also an excuse for people to do nothing. It's like, oh, once I have enough money to get a mentor, I'll get a mentor. No, there's Google. So there is no excuse for not starting something you want to do at this point. Find Google or use Google, or find someone who has done this stuff before, add value to them, or pay for a mentor, and then you can get your path going much faster.
Love it. I love it. And I couldn't agree more. I've utilized mentors, and, it helps you avoid some of those key mistakes, those costly mistakes. And yeah, it's helped me accelerate a ton. So couldn't agree more. Let's talk about you. I think are perfect person to talk about this. Time management. So you were doing all of this while you were working a full-time job, working nights, father. So this is something that I'm dealing with right now. 3 young kids, working full-time, trying to do the real estate stuff. I've had to avoid, cut out distractions. That's the easiest way to put it. And, what are your thoughts on that? Some strategies that you implemented?
I learned how to create time. This is where the military came in. Dude, especially from 08 to 2013, when I was doing the police stuff full time, man, if I didn't create time somewhere, things just didn't get done. So this is what I always tell people. I'm always up at 4 a.m., whether it's for the gym or business, but now it's more for gym than anything. But from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., no one's going to bother you, and there's nothing to get in your way. That's 4 hours a day. You do that 5 days a week. That's 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month, 960 hours a year. That's 5.14 weeks that you have created. 5.14 weeks. If you add another 4-hour block on Saturday and Sunday, you've created 2 months. There's no effing excuse. There's no excuse. We don't lack time. We lack commitment to self. That's all that it is. So, Mo, how did you do all that stuff? When did you find the time? Well, there's 24 hours in a day. I gotta sleep 6 to 7 of it. The rest of it, I'm not gonna bullshit around with like binging Netflix, or, to be honest, like even on the corporate life stuff, I never really went to any of the networking events. I never went to any of the extracurricular stuff, because I was more focused on using that wonderful salary that I was making and investing it in assets that would create passive income to then go buy more assets. I was less focused on, let me go to the networking event to meet that particular company executive so I can get the next title in the thing. I understand the pressures of real work. I do. And for some people, investing is not going to be the thing, right? They're going to use upward mobility and salary to do different things or whatever. But everything's a choice. If I use that time wisely in my 30s and 40s, look what has happened. How you use your time is important. Busy is not productive. Like I could go be busy and meet 30 executives from the company that I worked for, and maybe I get promoted 2 years later for an extra $15,000. Or bring my ass home at 5 p.m., uh, do all the family stuff that you have to do, but then get on a podcast, get on Google, read something, execute a deal, buy some stock, buy one stock, buy anything, right? So I don't buy the thing that there's no time. And then I'll wrap that up by saying, in the last 2 years, I was inherently doing this, but I learned about a tool. It's called a productivity pyramid. There's brown time, green time, gold time. Gold is the life stuff, my travel. Green is the stuff that will make us money. Light green is the stuff we have to do, like go to the bank, family, do the mail. But then there's this brown stuff at the time, and that's where most of us spend a lot of our time, and we don't even realize it. Netflixing, going to the bar with the fellas. There's nothing wrong with it, but if you're doing it excessively, think about it. It's taking away your time resource and your money resource, and you need both of those to go invest and build a company or do whatever you want to do. I was very good at cutting out brown time my entire life. Military had a lot to do with that, by the way. But it also had a lot to do with it was my schedule was so full. So that's my stance on the whole time management thing. There is no balance, dude. It's either you want it or you don't. You're committed to your cause or you're not. You'll get up or you won't. And I still do it to this day. So,
God, I cannot tell you how much I love that. That is great stuff. So that's a good transition into my next question for you. So, as I mentioned a little bit in the pre-show, so I work at a nuclear power plant, Diablo Canyon Power Plant. It is shutting down in 2025. My plan is to replace my W-2 income with income from real estate, and I want to help others do the same. I want to help others in the same boat do the same. So how can, if you have any words of advice for somebody who's going to be losing their job or wants to quit their job in the next 3 years? A, is that possible? And B, what are some things that they can do right now, starting today, to start making that happen?
Well, my formula for how I got to my own level of financial freedom, whatever that is for me, because it's different for everybody, right? Not people, there's this notion you got to have $20 million in the bank to be free, and that's a bunch of crap. Generate $6,000 of passive income, have $3,000 worth of bills, and you're free. Okay. So you got to figure out what that monthly number is for you. And if you're the one who has 3 Mercedes and the 6,000 square foot house and you can't afford it, you're doing that to yourself, right? But my general formula, and I think anyone at the plant or anywhere can use it, is you define what your purpose is, what you're trying to do. You take that amazing paycheck, you pay yourself first. Okay. I was always good around 60 to 70% of my entire pay, my entire life. You store enough capital until you can buy an asset, and then you buy an asset, and then you press repeat. If you don't have a lot of time and you save up, let's say $50,000 or something like that, you partner with other people who have money too. And instead of investing your $50,000, you go invest 250 with 5 people into an asset. And you know that asset is probably not going to make a mass amount of passive income on the first go around, but invested correctly with the right team or right asset, if you will, it can produce a certain amount of equity. And now you're sitting on 500 to reinvest one more time, which can easily get to $1 million. People are just thinking about this stuff the wrong way. A modest paycheck stored away, invested in assets over time will free you. Period. It's just the speed of it all depends on your commitment and your ability to generate more revenue. So, for the people who are leaving in 3 years or what have you, I would say store as much capital as possible. I love multifamily for the reasons that the economies of scale are there. If you have a 100-unit complex and one person stops paying, don't worry, there's still 99 others paying. That's different from a one family. If the person's gone, it's vacant, there's no money coming in. You find the right team, you invest it, you try and get your money doubled in 3 to 5 years. You reinvest it again, you reinvest it again. Inflation is now 7%. We have to learn how to take a dollar and send it out into the world and tell it to come back with 2 or 3 friends in a few years. We have to. And that is the self-education that I talked about. That is all I started reading about, probably to a fault, because I'm like incessant about it. But everyone controls their own destiny. If you can store capital, then you can buy assets.
The compound effect and velocity of capital.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So besides the financial personal finances for dummies, what's a key book that you have read that's kind of helped shift your outlook on life?
Oh, I'll give you two, brother. Yeah, personal finance, that was a good one, man. That really started everything. They are not real estate books. They are lifestyle oriented things. So it's Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. My book, I don't know, for some reason that book is a lightning rod or something. There's no 4-hour work week in this world. It's not that. What he was talking about in that book is automating and outsourcing your life such that you're using your time effectively. You're getting rid of the brown time. So for example, I don't receive mail anywhere. All my mail comes into Earth Class Mail, which is an online interface. I'll look at mail once a month. Okay. For Quattro Capital, we use Slack for communication. I don't want to sit on meetings for 30, 45 minutes or an hour a day to talk about a property. Put the pertinent information in the Slack channel and I will read it when it makes sense. And you can call a meeting for 10 minutes once every 2 weeks, and then we can talk about something, right? Like, we're automating everything. The other thing I learned in that book is freedom equals time plus mobility. All this stuff is about life. It is not acquire as much real estate or assets or money. No, we're here to live, right? So passive income to me equals time. And then if you add mobility to that, not having a lot of crap, not having 3 mortgages, not having 10 cars in your driveway, you're more free, less commercial junk, more movement, right? So you get this freedom equals time plus mobility thing where you get to move around the planet, do different things. So 4-Hour Work Week was a big thing because I have a very flexible lifestyle outside of the 2 kids I need to take care of, but they travel with me as well, right? My 8-year-old has been to 8 or 9 countries already, right? And then the last book is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. I won't get into the whole book, but he was a Holocaust survivor. He had to find meaning in the fact he was still alive. He lost his entire family. It helped me figure out what my purpose is on this planet. Money is such a fleeting thing. I told you in 2014, where I realized I had enough to cover my basic needs, the motivation was not there to keep going. I now have significant motivation for keeping going with Quattro Capital or traveling around the world or taking care of my kids. And in general, it's giving back to community, right? It's knowing that a community is happy with me because I have done something for them. How many people are going to come to my funeral or be sad when they find out I died? That's my metric, Man's Search for Meaning helped me figure that out. And that's why I have so much energy still to this day to be running all these businesses and going after all these different endeavors, because there's purpose behind it.
Yeah, I've read both of those myself, and they're both extremely powerful and have also had a huge impact on what I'm doing, my purpose. All right, Maurice. So what's Quattro working on in 2022, and what about anything personal goals for you for 2022?
Yeah, so Quattro, we well, we're definitely going to be active, that's for sure. Our sweet spot right now is properties anywhere, probably 150 to 300 units in the 23 to 30 million dollar range. We'll probably, from a projection standpoint, pipeline standpoint, 6 or 7 deals this year, maybe more. So if anyone is interested, we are add value investors. We are much more of a market research entity than we are even a real estate firm, because we find the right market first. Salaries going up, population growth, how are they dealing with COVID? And then once we find the right jurisdiction, then we shake the trees and find the right property. You can always get an increase in value by executing your business plan, which is forced appreciation, but you can get the multiplication effect if you find a market where there's going to be natural appreciation too. So we'll be doing a lot of deals. Right now, we're exiting deals probably around the 2 to 3 year period versus 5. And even though past results is not indicative of future performance, the deals we've gone full cycle on have been in the 35, 38% average rate of return. And that's because of that, finding the market that's naturally appreciating plus executing the business plan. So we're doing really well. So that's Quattro's goals, is to help people, help investors, improve quality of life for tenants, and then we take a portion of our proceeds and we do philanthropic stuff with it. We're even working on our own foundation now. And then from a personal perspective, my man, I told you life is more than sitting around here. So freedom of relationships, that last freedom principle. I've loved the Mediterranean since I was a federal agent there in 2015, running a field office in Turkey. Through several degrees of separation, I found a husband of someone I graduated with at college. He's Cypriot from Cyprus. He happens to be a real estate developer. I essentially begged him to learn from him. We are now business partners, and we're working on our third real estate development project on the island of Cyprus. That's awesome. That is not even a money thing, man. That is a Maurice wanting to be able to die one day and being like, damn, I'm inner city kid from Boston, Massachusetts, and I own property, like acres and acres and acres of land on an island in the Mediterranean. Oh, and I'm being really good to that community and doing good work for them. That's a personal goal for me. And then lastly, so I'm in Cyprus doing work. And then lastly, family. My family has sacrificed a lot related to all this stuff that I have done over the last 2 decades. A lot. Policing, consulting, traveling, being deployed. My youngest is 8. He has me every day now, right? I have to be a better father and be more plugged in. It's not that I wasn't a good father. It's just that my presence wasn't always around. You know, his mom sacrificed for me in a big way, and now I need to give to them in a big way. So when you talk about personal goals, everything is about home lifestyle investment now. Renovating the house. We bought a little cottage on the water. I bought my oldest a car. Spend more time with the kids, be intentional, that type of stuff. But I earned it, right? I have my time freedom to do that now.
That's phenomenal stuff, Maurice. How can people get a hold of you or follow you if they want to see what you got going on?
Yeah, so the easiest way is LinkedIn, Maurice Philogene. I talk a lot about this stuff in my W-2 journey, how I got out, why I got out. By the way, I loved working in corporate. I never had a problem with it. I just used the paycheck really well. So just Maurice Philogene. The lifestyle stuff, the travel, the immersing in culture, talking about business, but from a life perspective, is on Instagram, Maurice Philogene. And then Quattro Capital, I'm very proud of it. Our website is www.thequattroway, W-A-Y, thequattroway.com. And you can catch us there, register for the portal. You'll be kept up on all the deals. And I would love to do some business with people.
That's great. All right, people. So take this information, go back, listen to this episode 4 or 5 times, take notes, do what he's saying. This stuff is gold, straight gold nuggets. Thanks so much, Maurice. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
My pleasure. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you for listening to Freedom Investor Radio. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks again for listening.